Hello my good students, I hope you all are doing well. Today we're going to go over some of the very basic syntaxes and some of the codes from the second chapter. I know that you all have taken the Python course before you came to Java. So some of these things that we'll be talking about today are pretty primitive. However, I would like to go a little slow because you're experiencing a completely new set of syntaxes. But I don't think that it is very difficult for you to follow along and understand some of the codes that I'll be talking about today. So what I would like to do is to get started with the very basic of Eclipse workspace. As you can see here, I do have the package explorer, which shows me the hierarchy or my folder structure, and in the middle I have the workspace, but then I also have the console or the output window that is kind of at the bottom. So I'll continue with this. So I'm going to start with a very new project. So I'm going to say new and Java project, and since this is the second chapter, I'm going to create a folder with a project name called chapter2, let's say examples. And then I'm going to click on next. It is selecting the newest Java JRE, and it is going to create my separate folder. So I'm going to say next, and that should create my folder called Java chapter2examples. What you see over here are some of my prior projects. Again, this is just the package explorer, so that is why it is showing. However, I have to choose the right project. So at this point, chapter2examples, I can right click and say new and call or ask for creating a class. And at this point, I have to come in and name my class. Now, in the second chapter, you will see the book goes over some of the naming conventions, and please follow those things. You know, there are things like you can name it. You cannot name a class with a space in between. You can put in underscore, but you cannot put a number. So I can say, let's say chapter2examples. And these are just, this is just the name of the class. And you have to save your Java program with the same name as your class name, so that you can generate a class code, and then you'll have to run the class code to compile the program and give the output. So at this point, I called it chapter2examples, which is an okay way of naming my class. I can name my class anything, and I'm going to have the main method. So the IDE is going to help me write the main method without me having to remember that this is how I would create my main method: public static void main string. And then I would generate my comments and click on finish, and that should get me with the basic example. Now, what you have seen here is because this is a constructor, and I generated it because in my previous screen I had not unchecked the constructor. If I would have unchecked the constructor, then this would have not been created for me. But I'll just leave it for right now, because pretty soon in the next few chapters we will be getting into the constructors. Constructors are basically special methods that we'll be talking about a little more. But we will focus on the main method right here. One of the things I had mentioned earlier, everything starts and ends with a curly brace. So this is my class that I define. This is the beginning and this is the end. I can write my comments, and I can say begin class and end my comment over here saying end of class. I can come over here. Since I'm going to come here, I'm going to say begin come in here and say begin main method, and over here end of main method. Now another thing to keep in mind is if these curly braces does not match, which means that if you open one and forget to close one, it's going to give you an error and the program is not going to compile. So in this instance, we have the main method, and I can write a very simple print method, which is going to be my system.out.print line. Now remember, with my print line, it basically takes me to the next line. So if I say here first, let's say first example of printing in separate lines, and I have to end my code with a semicolon. So this is what it does. I can also copy paste this part over here. And if I say we'll look into defining some variables, and I'm going to do a lot of copy paste, and we will also look into inputting and outputting values in different formats. So let's go ahead and run, and if I click on run, this is what it does. First example of printing in separate lines, because I'm using the line. But over here, since I use print, you see that it is all printed in the same line. Now I can always add a new line character here. So at this point, it's going to break it apart into separate lines. So I can add a new line character. Again, this is also in the book. I can add another one over here that's going to add another line for my output like this. So this is basically the ways of printing out with print line and print method. Again, very, very simple examples in the book. Now, what I would like to do is now define something or write a program where it is going to allow me to input some value. So let's say I say system dot, let me write some comment here, and I'm going to say code or syntax to input values from users. So I'm going to say system.out.print, enter your name, and I'll come back and explain the code in just a minute. All right, so over here, what I'm doing is writing the code which is going to allow the users to input some value. Now, compared to Python, this code is a little more bulky. Remember, in my Python, only thing I would do is print and then put, say, input, a value. Over here, this is my print statement that I would like to display, that I would like to use to display, enter your name on your screen, and then to take the value in depending upon the kind of value that I'm expecting. In this case, I'm expecting a string value. I have to use certain methods that are defined in the Java library, which allows me to take the value in and store it in this particular variable called my name. Now, this is also something new in Java. Every time you define a variable, you have to define the data type that goes with it. So I did both in one line. However, you can always come in and define something like string my name like this. This way I have the variable already defined, and only thing I have to do is come in here and say my name equals scanner dot next line. Now, this SC that you see is an object, and I'll have to define that object at the very beginning. So over here, and you can actually see that you have the editor already telling you that this is an error over here. So if you click on it, it will ask you if you want to create or correct the code. So if I come in here, it says multiple markers SC cannot be resolved because I have not defined the object SC over here. The way I can do this is I can come in and say import java.util.scanner, and I'll have to write another statement here which says scanner SC equals new scanner system.in. So what we are doing over here is we are bringing in a scanner object, and this is actually already given in this library called utilities. So in Java, you have to import that particular library so that the program or the editor knows when I create an object like this, that it is actually coming from the scanner class. Okay, so you're bringing the scanner class into your program and creating an object called SC or scanner, whatever you want to call it, by using this code, which is scanner SC equals new scanner system.in. So this is something that you're going to be seeing quite a bit when we start writing our Java code, where we are going to be dealing with users inputting values from outside. Okay, and we will go through the breakdown of the program in just a minute. So this would allow me to use this particular object called scanner and associate that with the next line method, again already defined in this system or the scanner class. So by importing this library, I now make it available to this particular program. So at this point, I have all this information that I need here. So now I'm going to use another print method. I'm going to say system.out.printf, and this is something that you have not seen so far, and I'll explain it in just a minute. Hello. S. So yes, I understand that the code is a little clunky, and it is not as simple. The syntax is not as simple as Python, but the way it works, is pretty similar. So what I'm using is a print format. This is another print method, and in this one I have to use some placeholder depending upon the output that I get. So I would use a %s because part of it is going to come, the value is going to come from the variable called my name, which is storing my name. And also the %d is the placeholder which is going to hold the integer value that will come from this variable called age. So at this point, if I run my program, this is what it's going to do, and it says enter your first name. Now I probably would want to separate them out, so I'm going to put a new line here, and I would compile the program again. And now it says enter your name, and I say in India and hit enter. It says enter your name, and I did not want to have it the name. I wanted to use age because remember I copied and pasted things, and that is probably what it did. And I'm going to give another new line over here. Okay, so I'm going to compile this now, and it says enter your name, and I'm going to say in India, and it says enter your age, and I would say 50. Hit enter, and it says hello in India, you are 50 years old, which is coming from this statement or this output over here, which is system out printf. So hello is the string %s, so that's my value that comes from this variable called my name, which is shown by putting a comma after you put your string. Then you need to bring in your variable for my name and age, and the values of my name is coming into this string over here, and the value of age is coming into %d, which is going to display or hold an integer value. So in Java, the book is going to tell you about, you have to define every single variable that you're going to be using in the program. In this case, I used my name. In this case, I have to define the variable called int, and that's why I did it in all one line. So int age equals sc, and then again call this value called next int to let users input the value. So depending upon the values that I'm going to bring in, next line brings in a string, next int brings in or allows me to bring in an integer. If I want to bring in a double, it's going to be next double. Okay, so these are the kind of things that you will have to go through the book and pick on these syntaxes which are very typical of the Java language. So although the working is pretty much the same, the syntax is a little more clumsier and a little different than what you have expected and seen in your Python code. So in this case, what we did was I showed you two or three different kinds of print statements. So one is your system.out.print line that adds a line to it. The one is with print. I also showed you how you can write your structure or write your program which allows you to input values by bringing in your library, which is the java.util.scanner library. And this is creating a new object, so I can say creating a new object called SC from the scanner class. Okay, so Java is a language which uses a lot of library and a lot of classes. So in this case, this is my class. This is a constructor that I have not used for this particular program, but we will be getting into this thing pretty quick. This is my main class. So every time you write a new program, you have to use this main method. So the main method is where the program actually starts working. Okay, so the compiler sees the main method and it knows, okay, this is where I need to go start. Now this is creating a new object from the scanner class which I have imported. These are my print statement, different formats. I'm using a new line character. In your book, it tells you the other kind of characters that you can use for a tab, for new line and things like that. Now I have asked, or I did another print statement to ask the user to input the name. I use this next line method to bring value in associated with the scanner object that I had created earlier. And then I brought in an age and I displayed the value using a printf format. So again, all these things you will be seeing in the second chapter. Now, I hope you have no problem understanding the syntax. Feel free to go back and look at web resources. If you get stuck with errors, if you cannot quite figure out what the error is, I encourage you to take this thing and plug it into an AI editor and ask, where is the error? Let it explain to you. Make sure you understand. For example, I'm telling you that this %s is a placeholder that you need for a string. Even if you don't remember, you should be able to look it up. %n is basically creating a new line in there. This plus is the concatenation when you're trying to add two strings, but you're also bringing in values, which is %s and %d. %s for string comes from my name, and age, this is your %d. So if you put in a %s over here, then your output, it's not going to work because it's going to say age is an integer, but you're trying to display a string over here. So that might cause some error. So something like this, feel free to use an editor or some web resources for correcting these kind of codes. However, make sure that you follow the code and you understand how the code is being written. Hello, I'm going to come in and show you another example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep everything in the same project folder. However, I would create a new class. So if I'm going to come into my chapter 2 examples and create a new class, and in this case I would say public static void main, and I'm going to say another example, and this time I'm going to uncheck my constructor and just click on my generate comments. This way I'm going to show you that it is not going to generate the constructor that you had seen a little earlier. So if I come in and create my basic template over here, so this is the name of my class and this is my public static void main method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import another program that I had already written from outside to over here, and I may need to do a little bit of correcting when I bring the program in, because let me see, it is right now in the editor. So I tried writing a little more of the code here, and then we'll go over the code with you. So right now, as you can see, I have created my class, I have created my main method, and I'm creating this object and I'm calling it scanner. In the previous example I called it SC, but I can name it anything that I would like. So at this point it tells me that it is an error. So if I click on it, it will probably give me that I have to import a scanner or import this particular library that goes that needs to come here. So if I click on that, it is going to import my scanner library at the top. It didn't do it. Why did it not do it? Right here, and import. There we go. So now it's imported. So now everything looks to be okay. Oh, it brought it over here. That's why it gives us a problem. And I'm going to go through with the code with you. I'm going to go ahead and clear my console, which can be done by this icon over here called clear console. So now I have the console that is clear. So let's take a look at the code and then we'll run the code. So here is my class, and I made it public. It actually means something in Java. Public means it can be seen by everybody. Class is it's a special or a reserved name that defines that this is a class. Anything that is highlighted like this, these are reserved words, and it actually means something to the Java language. So when you read your chapter, when you see something, it says you can name your variable anything. However, it also tells you that the variable name cannot be any of the reserved words that mean something in Java. So public again is telling you that this method can be seen by everybody. Static, we'll talk about static versus non-static later, but static is also a reserved word. Void means this main method is not going to return something, and then the name of the method is called main, and then inside the main you have string with arguments. So this is something that you will always write whenever you create a new class and a main method. This one is creating your scanner object. Scanner, this is the class, this is the object, and new is the way or instantiation. Whenever you're trying to create a new object, you always have to use this new reserved word. So you're going to say new and then the scanner and then system.in, because it is going to use the scanner object to be using all these print method that is present in the scanner class. Over here, I'm writing my system out print, asking for inputting my name, then storing the value in name, entering my age, storing the value in my age, enter the price of an item, and then storing the value in item.price. Now, one thing to note here is, as you can see, this is going to be next double. So these are methods that I'm using, which is associated with the scanner object that I had created, which allows me to input values from outside. Same thing over here. I enter a discount percentage, 15 for 15%, and next double. Scanner.nextLine basically gives me, it absorbs any of the additional values between the next double and the next line. And I'll show you when I run this thing. And then enter your favorite hobby. And then I'm going to also again use next line. This is my method to take a string in, and it's going to be stored in string. And then I have this discount amount and the final price, and I'm doing some calculation. What are my calculation? I'm taking the item price, which is this price, multiplied that by discount percentage by 100. So when I'm trying to calculate my discount percentage, 15%, this is how I'm going to do my calculation. And then my final price is going to be my item price, and I'm going to deduct my discount amount. So now I also have another one, calculate how many years until 30, 40, and 50. So years to 30. So when I take my value for age, I'm going to say 30 minus age is going to however many years that I have left to become 30. Same thing, 40 is however many years I have left to become 40. And of course, if I input an amount called, in my age, if I input something called 70, then none of these things are going to work, because my values are more than 30, 40, and 50. And I can then come in and add, more statements over here. So it could be years to 50, years to 60, years to 70, years to 80. So I can just keep adding these things. And now over here, I'm trying to again come up with some examples. Hobby hours estimation, number of hours 52, 5. So hours per weeks per year, hours per week, and years to look ahead. And then integer estimated hobby hours is hours per week times weeks per year times years to look ahead. So now this is my profile summary. And again, this is just an example. I want for you all to be able to follow it and see how I'm using the syntax. Okay, I've showed you everything. I've discussed something. These are my formatting. You will be seeing these things being used in your print statements. So 7.2 is a placeholder. So I'm going to display these values. So let me run this program and show you what I'm talking about. So enter my name, and I'm going to say John. Enter your current age, and I say, let's say 27. And then enter the price of an item, and I say 87, it's double, right? 87.57. And then discount percentage, I would say, let's say 10%. So enter my favorite hobby, playing golf. Now this is my output. Okay, so here's my profile summary. 27 years, my hobby, my years to 13, years to become 30, that's 3 years. And then my original price is 87.57. My discount is 8.76. My final price is 78.81, and I save 8.76. And these are my future projections. So again, these are just some simple code examples which allows you to practice your syntax, see the use of variables, and write different kinds of print methods. Hopefully with these two examples, and along with some of the chapter information that you have in the book, you should be able to familiarize yourself as to how to deal with variables and calculations in Java. Thank you.